Masayat Zevahim Daf Kuf Hayat, starting from Kuf Zayin Amud Bet 15 lines down. Timranan. When we studied, if you bring it outside your chayav for slaughtering it, for sacrificing, never, what does that mean? Amahane, when the pasuk says in the camp, Yachal Shohed Allah Badurami Chayav, meant that even slaughters in Allah in the southern part of the Haser, you should be a chayav. Tomorrow, if the pasuk says, El Mehus Mahana outside. Yachal Chutz Mishmama, you need all three. I know even outside only the first machane outside of the V machane it counts as chiyuv. From the mar bam machane even machane yachal shel elav v'derom beichav. So maybe again, why would you think in the southern parts chayav? From the mar o asher yishchad mechutz machane ma mechutz machane michad just like outside the camp is special. She'en ro'i l'shchitat kol zevach you can't slaughter every korban. Af machane she'en ro'i l'shchitat kol zevach so it's referring to the camps that you can't slaughter. Yatzad which excludes the southern part of the Hatzer. Shafa she'en ro'i l'shchitat koshim even though you can't slaughter. Kosher kochim. Kosher kalim. You can still slaughter, however, kosher kalim. Ma'ula says, "Hashachit al gago shalichal hayav." Someone slaughters a korban on the roof of the chatzer. You're chayav for slaughtering outside. Because you can never slaughter any korban. Al tif rava. In that's the case. To Rahmana. In the third krab, pasuk should mention b'machane u'michutz machane. But lo why mention the words el petach chol moed? El petach chol moed. Why didn't teach you that? Lav mutego must be exploding that you can't. And if you slaughter on the roof, it's okay. Where it says, يمكن according to Rava, يمكن that's the case. Next to El Petach Ol Moed, you should mention the Ol Moed entrance. Kamachane Umi Chutz Machane Lami was the other two pesukim of the camps. La Votego sounds like you're including that the roof is chayav. Amar Rava Mar says no. Afia Kula Befnim V'Tzavara V'Chutz. In a case where let's say the animal, the body was inside the chaser and the neck is outside. The Gemara says Tzavara V'Chutz Pshita. The neck is outside, of course you're chayav. I'm not kapit. What else would the Torah be worried about? Ashchita is for the slaughter of shchita b'chutz when the slaughtering of the neck is outside. Or it's okay, fine, opposite. Tomorrow the case when the animal is outside and the neck is inside. It says, someone brings a korban outside of the Bet HaMikdash when there's no Bet HaMikdash. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Hayav, Rabbi Yochanan says, Rabbi Yochanan Patur, Rabbi Yochanan Hayav, Rabbi Yochanan says Hayav, the Kushar Rishona, Kichad Sha'ata. When the initial Kedusha of the Yerushalayim and Bet HaMikdash remains Kadosh from then on. The initial kedusha shata is only when the is around. Without kedusha that is not forever. Name it. The Rabbi show up. Maybe there's a machlok is based on the fine machlok. The Tanakh Mishnah says, "Mar Rabbi Lezer, kishiyah b'nim ne'echal when he's building the echal." Hayu osim ka'im b'echal. They set up curtains in the echal, ka'im bazrot curtains in the hatzer to block off people from seeing. Elish b'echal bonim machos except in the echal they build a wall outside the curtain. Bazra and the azra bonim between they build it inside the curtain. Marbi Yeshua Shmati, I heard shayu makrivin afapish en bayit. They used to offer a korban even though there was no structure yet. V'achum koche kochim afapish en l'klaim. They eat the koche kochim even without the curtains there to separate. Koche kalim maaser sheni afapish en command eat koche kalim and maaser sheni even without the walls of Yerushalayim yet. Because the Shah was everlasting. Okay. Our saying this says that he argues and he says there is no Kedusha. The Gemara says, who says that? Really, they would agree that it lasts forever. Each one is repeating what they had heard and what their rabbis mentioned, but not necessarily their own opinions. But he came by and asked, why does it need the curtains? This new Balma doesn't need necessarily to make the walls, it is already Kedusha, but rather because of privacy, just to block the views. It says, unless someone offers a part of a korban azayt, and bogzayt is not enough of a kazayt, and the bone attached to the meat makes it into a kazayt amount. The attachment of a korban is like the korban itself, and therefore it's enough. Makes it a kazayt. Considered attached. Bayar says, someone offers a piece of a korban rosh ben yuna and bokzayt, the head of a pigeon, does not have enough of an olive. The kazayt, but the salt that adds in it makes it into the size of an olive. Ma with halacha, is that considered sufficient to adding it into the kazayt or not? Where it says, Marava mi parzakti lervashe lav hainu regarding the meat in the bone. Gemara says, "There's still a question according to both. Tibali Rabbi still a question to Rabbi Yochanan. Ad kan lokamar Rabbi Yochanan el hatam el aitzen. Yochanan maybe only had a question regarding the bone. The meat not the basar because that's part of the meat, meaning meat and bone are the same part of the same creature. Of melach, which is external salt, lavin nabayuna is not part of the pigeon. Lo, maybe you would not say it counts. Tibali Shakish is also according to Shakish. Ad kan lokamar Shakish hatam ela. Regarding the bone, he said it does not count because the parish mina la mitzvah suke because you separate from meat. There's no difference. Regarding the salt, the parish mitzvah la suke. If you separate the salt, you can no longer bring it. Lo, therefore it would not count. Maybe he still would not make a difference and it would no different, and he would say it's considered the simachloka would apply. Mar says teku, no answer to that question regarding the salt. Next part of our Mishnah talks about Rabbi Yossi Haglili Omer. He held in our Mishnah that you're only chayav for bringing a korban outside the location if you slaughtered it inside. But if you slaughtered it outside the Beit HaMikdash, you're not chayav because it was already pasul. Heshiv Rabbi Tahat Rabbi Yossi Haglili. Rabbi answered, and the Chachamim asked him a question saying it doesn't make sense, but Rabbi answers for him. You can compare it to a case where someone slaughtered a korban inside the Beit HaMikdash and he offered it outside. At that point, it was kasher at one point, and before it became pasul. How can you compare it to the case where you slaughtered it out and offered it out? It was never eligible at one point. The answer answers, but how can you compare it to someone who slaughtered inside and brings it up outside, where the Mizbeach already accepted it? He's saying the same. It's another response for exactly saying, but how will you compare that to the case where you slaughtered it outside, where the Mizbeach doesn't accept it? Says, my banana, what's the difference in two explanations of Rabbi Shai? She said that one difference would be if you slaughter it at nighttime, meaning if you slaughter at nighttime, it's pasul. According to the B, you're patur because it's already pasul. According to Rabbi Shimon, however, it's okay because you wouldn't take it off the mizbeach. Another answer to Balmar, the difference is whether or not you also if you were to have a case where you use a non-kadosh kli. According to the B, if you did use a non-kadosh kli to receive the blood, since it was never kosher, no hayab. Other opinion, would you would. Next part of Mishnah. If someone was tameh either kadosh foods when that was tameh, or it was tahor. One of them was tameh, was tahor, and there was back and forth. He says if the person who is tameh ate something that's tahor, he's chayab. But if the food itself was tameh, he's patur because he was already tameh. Chachamim argued, said no. Even when a tameh person eats tahor food, it's tameh once he touches it. Shapir Kama Rabban Rabbi Yosef. Now we like the Chachamim answer to Rabbi Yosef. How do you explain it? Maravar Abbas I'll explain it. Whenever the guy became tameh and the meat became tameh afterward, the kula amal everybody would agree even though the meat was already tameh. Because eating kadosh foods when you're tameh is karet. Where's there machloket where the meat became tameh and then the body of the person became tameh afterwards. The Benan Sabri Chachamim hold, Amir Amigo we hold since his tuma right now causes an isur against eating kadosh foods while he's tahor. So therefore the isur also takes even if the food's already tameh. But the Savardo of Amigo basically does not hold that. Basically, even though we don't say that you hold the migu, the concept of since. At least, however, the isur of the tuma of his body, which is more stricter, should come and land on the meat tuma. Meaning, it's not going to add on it, but it should take it over at least. Who says it's more hamor? The meat is more hamor. Because meat, you can never purify. Not like you could purify a body with a mikveh. Okay. New Mishnah. Some things are stricter about slaughtering than offering it outside. And some things are stricter about offering it outside than slaughtering outside. The slaughtering is more hamor. Someone who slaughters for a regular person, you're chayav, if you had it for a non-Hashem intention. But someone who offers it for another person, worshipping another person, he's patur. However, he would be a chayav for doing all that. What's stricter about offering? If If two people held the knife and slaughtered it, they're not chayav. Achazu ba'ever ve'elu b'chayur. If two people held the limb and cut it, then they and it's offered it, they are chayav. Someone offered and again offered different pieces separate times. He's chayav in each one, even though it was one forgetfulness stage. He's chayav each one. Rabbi says, "Eno chayav achat, only chayav once." Because one mistake. Eno chayav ad she'ya'alel l'rosh hamizbeach. You're not chayav until you offer the korban on top of the mizbeach itself. Rabbi says, "No, not even necessarily. I feel even if you offer on a rock or a stone, if you're having it in mind for something else, you're chayav." Why it's different that you're offering it for a regular person, you're patur. The tipa says la Hashem, permission for Hashem. So we're slaughtering for a person also. It also says for Hashem. So why are you not? Why are you chayav by slaughtering? What's the Shani Hanam over there is different. The Amar Kra Ish Ish by pasuk it says by slaughtering it says man man, and therefore it's saying you're chayav for man. Okay, but offering also says man and so should be chayav. The Gemara says if two people offer the limb of a korban, they're chayav. Therefore, you can't teach me that the common if you're offering it for a man, you're chayav. That's the case, but slaughtering, how you know this teaches you that two people who slaughter together are chayav. How can you teach me they're chayav for slaughtering per person? Shmiyatam was different. Damar Kara, how mentions that man. Only one, not two. Yeah, that's the case. But by offering also says hahu. So also one be chayav, not two. Mibali, that pasuk means something else. The ma'ute shalreg anus tu'ay. That's teaching your chayav in the case where someone offered it, it was mistaken, or he was forced, or he made a mistake, he misguided. Therefore, I can't teach you anything else. Once the Yahweh has a case, Hachanami to by the slaughtering, the pasuk also needs to teach you the chayav if you slaughtered it by mistake. Gemara says, "Ha'te'ahu mentions hahu twice." Bela Hashem lamnitz. What's the reason they have the word Hashem teaching you? Gemara says, "Lahotzi sa'ir mishleach," to exclude that if you slaughtered the goat for Azazel, you are patur. Now, Azazel is the goat that you throw off by Yom Kippur. That's not sacrifice for Hashem. It's thrown off the roof, off the cliff. If you slaughter it, you're patur for slaughtering per person. I don't know why you want to do that Yom Kippur, but you can do crazy things. Chomer b'hala'av. We mentioned that the stringency of offering is more hamor because if two people did it together, they are chayav. Then we're done. Ish ish. Don't I mean to ish ish that about Shem Shahazud every other before. Shayachal, you would have thought. But I didn't know. Maybe this should be the opposite. If people should hold together their patur. Umash or chayav. In the case where someone who slaughters for a person's chayav, Shnaim Shahazud Zakim Shahazud Betrim. Two people held the knife and slaughtered their patur. Ma'aleh did with patur. So in the case where you offer it to somebody else, your patur. In addition, Shnaim Shahazud Betrim. So two people did it together, they should be patur. No. Ish ish. Pasuk teaches you chayav. It says, "Hahu echav l'shnayim." Only one's chayav, not two. Im came out from ish ish. According to Marza ish ish, the Torah kashon adam, because the Torah sometimes uses the language of the world. Okay. But if one he uses the pasuk teaches that if you're mistaken. Rabbi say mehu hahu. He learns it from the extra head of hahu. Rabbi Shimon hu hahu l'drishin. Rabbi Shimon says that extra head doesn't mean anything. Since the first time I mentions how ish ish it's normal way of talking, how ish ish nami so how come the second case by slaughtering also should be considered regular talking? How would he learn that if you slaughter for a common or patur, you have dam shafach, which teaches you even if you slaughter for a person, it's considered like you spilled the blood for the wrong reason, and you be chayav.